Imagine you're driving alone on a cold December night. The roads are empty. The town is asleep. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. Then suddenly, you see strange lights in the distance. At first, you think it's a broken-down truck, a traffic accident, maybe even an aircraft in trouble. But as you get closer, you realize you're looking at something that shouldn't exist. And what happens next will follow you for the rest of your life. This is the story of Herbert Schirmer, a police officer who claimed he encountered strange humanoid beings on a lonely Nebraska highway, and whose account would later become one of the most controversial UFO cases in American history. Was he telling the truth? Did he experience a vivid hallucination? Or did he stumble upon something humanity still cannot explain? Let's find out. The year was 1967. The place was Ashland, Nebraska, a small American town surrounded by farmland and open roads. 22-year-old Herbert Schirmer was working the night shift as a police officer. By all accounts, he was considered responsible, reliable, and well-respected in the community. Nothing unusual had happened during his patrol. Then, at around 2:30 in the morning, Schirmer noticed bright lights near the junction of two highways. At first, he assumed it was a truck parked on the road. As he drove closer, however, he realized the object looked nothing like a truck. According to Schirmer, it appeared metallic. It hovered slightly above the ground, and it was emitting an intense red glow. What happened next would become the center of a decades-long mystery. Schirmer later reported that as he approached the object, he noticed figures standing nearby. They appeared humanoid, but they did not look entirely human. He claimed they wore unusual uniforms and seemed to be guarding the craft. Then something even stranger happened. A beam of light struck him. He felt frozen, unable to move, unable to react, as though his body no longer belonged to him. Moments later, the object rose into the air and disappeared into the night sky. At least, that's what Schirmer consciously remembered. But when he returned to the police station, he realized something was wrong. Very wrong. When Schirmer checked the clock, he discovered that far more time had passed than he expected. Nearly half an hour seemed to be missing from his memory. He could not explain where that time had gone. He also complained of a severe headache. Some reports mention a strange red mark on his neck. Most unsettling of all, he had no clear memory of what happened during those missing minutes. The event disturbed him enough that he immediately documented the encounter. According to many accounts, he even wrote a note in the police log that essentially said, "I saw a flying saucer." Believe it or not. That statement would later become famous. But the real mystery was only beginning. 5 months later, UFO investigators became interested in the case. One of them arranged for Schirmer to undergo hypnotic regression. The goal was simple: recover whatever memories might have been hidden during the missing time. What emerged would transform an unusual UFO sighting into one of the strangest abduction stories ever reported. Under hypnosis, Schirmer claimed that he had not merely seen the object. He had entered it. Or, more accurately, he had been taken aboard. According to Schirmer's hypnotically recovered memories, the beings he encountered were unlike anything he had ever seen. He described them as humanoid. Their skin appeared pale. Their eyes were large and cat-like. Their mouths were thin. Their noses were flat. And some researchers later described their appearance as vaguely reptilian. One detail stood out more than any other. The beings allegedly wore uniforms displaying a winged serpent symbol across their chests. A winged serpent. An image that many people found unsettling. And an image that would become permanently associated with the case. Even today, believers point to the unusual nature of this detail. Why invent something so specific? Why not describe ordinary aliens? Why the winged serpent? No one knows. According to Schirmer, he was escorted inside the object. The interior did not resemble anything he recognized. He described curved walls, strange equipment, seats built directly into the structure itself. The lighting appeared bright, but he could not identify its source. Most disturbing of all was the way the beings communicated. He claimed they did not speak. Instead, thoughts appeared directly inside his mind. Telepathic communication. At least, that's how he described it. According to Schirmer, the beings discussed aspects of their technology and their presence on Earth. Some versions of the story even claim they hinted at hidden bases and advanced propulsion systems. Unfortunately, the details vary depending on the source, and that inconsistency has fueled debate for decades. This is where things become difficult, because despite all the extraordinary claims, there was never any conclusive proof. No photographs, no verified alien artifacts, no biological samples, no radar confirmation, no independent witnesses who could confirm the abduction. Supporters argue that Schirmer had little to gain from making such a story public. In fact, he suffered ridicule. His reputation was questioned. He became the target of skepticism and criticism. Why would a police officer willingly expose himself to that? Skeptics, however, see things differently. They point out that the most dramatic parts of the story emerged only after hypnosis, and hypnosis has a serious problem. Modern psychology has repeatedly shown that it can create false memories. People under hypnosis can sincerely believe events happened even when they did not. This doesn't necessarily mean Schirmer lied, but it does mean his memories may not be reliable evidence. More than half a century later, the Herbert Schirmer case continues to fascinate researchers. Not because it proves aliens exist. It doesn't. Not because it proves reptilian beings walk among us. It doesn't. The reason people still discuss the case is that it contains many elements that later became common in UFO abduction reports: missing time, telepathic communication, humanoid entities, suppressed memories, strange symbols, and beings with unusual, almost reptilian features. Whether coincidence or something more, Schirmer's account appeared before many of these themes became widespread in popular culture. That fact keeps the mystery alive. So, what really happened on that lonely Nebraska highway? Did Herbert Schirmer encounter visitors from another world? Did he experience a psychological event he could not fully understand? Or did an ordinary night somehow evolve into an extraordinary story? The truth remains unknown. What we do know is that Schirmer never fully abandoned his account. For the rest of his life, he maintained that something unusual happened that night, something he could not explain. And perhaps that's what makes this case so compelling. Not the aliens, not the spacecraft, not even the alleged reptilian beings, but the possibility that somewhere on a dark and empty road, an ordinary police officer witnessed something that challenged everything he thought he knew about reality. And if that happened once, could it happen again?